Oh, the mission statement that I started when I first did this now 6 years ago was simple. It was to share the tools of yoga with as many people as possible. And that's really still what I do. When we look at our business and how we grow, we come back to that. Is it going to serve that mission statement of sharing the tools of yoga with as many people as possible? Throughout my travels, I would visit these studios, and even though I had a great background in real deep esoteric practices as well as a strong kung fu background, I would go to these studios that were amazing. Some were round, that would have instructors who can do all kinds of crazy poses, but none of them were communicating to the students. In my opinion, very few were teaching the students at all. It was more them peacocking what they could do and the students, trying to follow along. At the same time, there was an air of pretension and elitism that I thought didn't belong, because really, as I pursued my own path in yoga, it only made me more humble, and it took that away. So when I traveled the country finding all this really pretense, these barriers to share these simple yet powerful tools with the people, I thought this is way wrong. This should be opposite of that. The people coming in, or the people greeting the people, should be humble and make the practice accessible. At that time, most yoga practices were still being taught in Sanskrit, which is basically a dead dialect of the language from India. People in India don't even speak it. Yet, when you'd walk into a yoga class, the instructors would expect you to know what these things are. With all my background, and I felt out of place, I'd done, like I said, out-of-body travel, dream yoga, which lucid stuff is really amazing, some really neat techniques, deep into meditative practices, deep into kung fu practices. Yet I felt out of place walking into just a basic yoga class, because I didn't speak Sanskrit, because I didn't know the secret handshake or whatnot. And that's when I thought, no, this is all wrong, and thought, hey, we can do this better. There's no perfect poses. There's no happiness in a particular pose. One of the reasons why I created American Power Yoga as well is because I thought people were really kind of running off a cliff because they were pursuing happiness in these deep, complicated poses, and that's not where it's at. I would argue that the acceptance of not being able to do a pose is going to make you much happier than the ability to do a pose. And in the end, it really doesn't matter what they do in this room or in the studio. It really matters how much they take away. That's the rest of the other 23 hours is the real deal. And making that transition to understand that yoga is quite simply the practice of life, then they can go in that room and they can take all the past, which is usually tension in the back, and all that anxiety from the future, and they'll lose it because they connect with the moment. One of the first things we do is have them show up mentally. Physically, it's cool. They get in the room, I can lock it, I can keep them there physically. But mentally, it's very hard to keep them there. So that's that focus. If you think about it, most of us spend our lives either analyzing the past or worrying about the future. And it's kind of crazy when the past is gone and the future is unknown. So, and the best way to really prepare for the future is to show up in the present. That way when the future arrives, we're already there. Things aren't good or bad, they just are. That equanimity is what I try to hold on to every day. Because even in the things that I viewed as the most challenging in my life, the death of my mother, which was the stories on the website, literally dying in my arms quite unexpectedly, most people would say, yes, that's the worst thing that's ever happened to you. Well, it made me appreciate life like I've never done before, and I've held on to that appreciation for now years and years. I've also taken that experience and used that as a catalyst to create American Power Yoga and to share it. And now American Power Yoga has gotten to help tens of thousands of people. So how can I say that challenging thing was bad? I could just as easily look at all this and say that was the best thing that's ever happened to me. In the end, the death of my mother wasn't good nor bad. It just was. And whether I learn from it and use it and appreciate what was and what will be, then it just is, and it can be turned into a valuable lesson.